This episode is sponsored by Kinsta. Between juggling client meetings, managing your website, and keeping up with everyday tasks, who has the time to stress out about website security? Well, with Kinsta, the technical stuff is taken care of, so you can focus on what you do best. Kinsta provides managed hosting for WordPress, offering lightning-fast load times, top-tier security, and unmatched human-only customer support. Whether you're a business owner, web developer, or running a digital agency, Kinsta makes managing your website easy and efficient. Kinsta provides enterprise-grade security, being one of the few hosting providers for WordPress with SOC 2 and other certifications, guaranteeing the highest level of security for your website. Thanks to their unlimited free expert-led migrations, Kinsta ensures a smooth transition for you from other hosting providers. Customers have reported 200% faster load times post-migration to their platform. What I find cool about Kinsta is their fast and reliable customer service and premium features that are included at no extra cost. Ready to experience Kinsta's hosting for yourself? Get your first month free when you sign up at kinsta.com today. That's KINSTA.com.
I'm Rohan Karamandi.
And I'm Phil Hawthorne, and we're the hosts of the Home Assistant podcast.
We're guessing you're into technology. Home Assistant is the #1 open source contributor project on GitHub with a focus on privacy and local control.
Join us every other week as we break down the latest features on Home Assistant and talk to everyday users who are automating their lives with Home Assistant.
From feeling like you're living in Star Trek with lights turning on in rooms when you walk in, to automating flushing the toilet, Home Assistant can integrate with virtually anything, and we've interviewed everyday people like yourselves that have done some pretty crazy automations.
Listen to the Home Assistant podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, or find us on YouTube, or visit homeassistant.fm.
So we decided to focus exclusively on Ruby on Rails framework initially, and only on that part of running your tests as fast as possible. So what we cut off for ourselves, we initially did not support PHP, Python, any of those technologies. We also didn't make anything for that deployment phase, to say, where, okay, something is green and then I click a button and then it gets deployed into production somewhere. That helped us to be focused. That helped us to amaze some people, but it also alienated and essentially rejected some other people. My name is Darko Fabijan. I'm a CTO at Semaphore.
This is Code Story, a podcast bringing you interviews with tech visionaries.
Spent 6 months moonlighting.
There's nothing on the back end.
Who share what it takes to change an industry.
I don't exactly know what to do next.
Took many goes to get right.
Who built the teams that have their back.
A company is its people.
The teams help each other achieve
Most
more.
proud of our team.
Keeping scalability top of mind.
All that infrastructure was a
Yes,
pain.
we've been fighting it as we grow.
Total waste of time. The stories you don't read in the headlines.
It's not an easy thing to achieve, mind
Took it
you.
off the shelf and dusted it off and tried it again.
To ride the ups and downs of the startup life.
You need to really want it.
It's not just about technology.
All this and more on Code Story.
I'm your host, Noah Lappart, and today how Darko Fabijan built the world's best CI/CD platform to serve your startup and enterprise via open source. This episode is sponsored by SpeakEasy. Grow your API user adoption and improve engineering velocity with friction-free integration experiences. With SpeakEasy's platform, you can now automatically generate SDKs in 10 languages and Terraform providers in minutes. Visit speakeasy.com/codestory and generate your first SDK for free. This message is sponsored by QA Wolf. QA Wolf gets engineering teams to 80% automated end-to-end test coverage and helps them ship 5 times faster by reducing QA cycles from hours to minutes. With over 100 5-star reviews on G2 and customer testimonials from SalesLoft, Drata, and AutoTrader, you're in good hands. Join the Wolfpack at QAWolf.com. Darko Fabijan is originally from Serbia and splits his time now between there and the US. He got his first computer in 1994 and eventually started tinkering and playing with Linux. He went to university in 2003 and then started a company with a college friend, which was a Rails consultancy. Outside of tech, he is married with 2 kids, ages 3 and 9. The older one is into athletics, while the younger one is more into art. is more into the artistic side of things. He enjoys spending time in nature with his family and got into trail running a few years ago, recently running a 64-kilometer trail. He also enjoys business books because he likes to see how other people did it when it comes to their successes and failures. In 2011, Darko was running his consulting shop with 7 or 8 people. As they were developing applications, they couldn't find anything for continuous integration where you just signed up and it worked. That was enough for them to get out there and build it on their own. This is the creation story of Semaphore.
Semaphore is a continuous delivery tool. It helps you ship your code faster. We work mainly with high-velocity teams, product teams, where every second counts and they want to have a super fast feedback loop when they're developing their software. Their CTO comes and say, hey, I want sub 4 minutes a feedback loop for my engineers when they push the code until it's ready to be deployed if all the tests pass. And we have been doing that for more than a decade now. It all started in 2011. As I mentioned previously, we were a consulting shop, about maybe 7 or 8 of us. And we were just developing apps, and then at that point, nothing really good existed on the market, which was in that realm of you just sign up for something, it works, like this Riverside. You don't have to set up anything that we are using. And at that point in time, that was enough to be the innovation, because all the apps that you had on your desktop or server, wherever, were moving into the cloud. So we followed the same pattern, and that's the inception, the first steps that we took.
Tell me about the MVP for Semaphore, so that first version of the product you built. How long did it take to build, and what sort of tools were you using to bring it to life?
I think it took roughly a year to get to the GA version, and maybe I would say around 9 months to get to the beta version. Back then we followed, you always copy someone, so we also copied. Those were the years when GitHub was started, where Heroku was started, which Shopify was started. So all of that generation of tools and services. And they were all relying on Ruby on Rails. Basecamp started a bit earlier, but it was the same stack. We loved the technology, we loved the experience, we loved I would say almost like a business focus of that tech stack that allows you to create and prototype things very quickly. We focused very much on that Ruby on Rails community. We knew the framework very well. We really had that strong focus on the aha moment. So when people register and they pick their repo where their app is, click next, we do some kind of analysis to figure out how it's set up, and then they get their first pipeline running and it turns green, and it's very fast. So that being super fast because we relied on bare metal hardware, we didn't use AWS, and just generated that aha moment very quickly. That helped us get off the ground fairly quickly. And of course, we were thinking about funding, but it took for us so quickly that we actually ended up never taking funding. And we are still 100% privately owned, bootstrapped company.
So in that first version of the product, you've got to make certain decisions and trade-offs around how you create that, right? And I hear the business decisions, right? You didn't take funding. Around building the product, were there any sort of cornerstone decisions and trade-offs you had to make? And I'm curious about those and how you coped with them.
I would say in any other product area, you either decide to be like very focused on one thing, or you cover a broader range of like technologies and user personas and all of that. So we decided to focus exclusively on Ruby on Rails framework initially, and only on that part of running your tests as fast as possible. So what we cut off for ourselves, we initially did not support PHP, Python, any of those technologies. We also didn't make anything for that deployment phase, to say, where, okay, something is green and then I click a button and then it gets deployed into production somewhere. That helped us to be focused, that helped us to amaze some people, but it also alienated and essentially rejected some other people. I think that it was a good decision. People ask you for more things, or they want to shape you in different ways, and then you have to say no, and saying no is great and it's super important. but you have to recognize the phase where maybe you outgrew your niche and you do need to start bending a little bit or expanding the market that you're covering and all of that.
This episode is sponsored by Vanta. You're a startup founder. Finding product market fit is probably your number one priority. But to land bigger customers, you also need security compliance. And obtaining your SOC 2 or ISO 27001 certification can open those big doors. But they take time and energy, pulling you away from building and shipping. And that's where Vanta comes in. Vanta is the all-in-one compliance solution helping startups like yours get audit ready and build a strong security foundation quickly and painlessly. How, you ask? Vanta automates the manual security tasks that slow you down, helping you streamline your audit. And the platform connects you with trusted experts to build your program, auditors to get you through audits quickly, and a marketplace for essentials like pen testing. So whether you're closing your first deal or gearing up for growth, Vanta makes compliance easy. Join over 8,000 companies, including many Y Combinator and Techstars startups who trust Vanta. For a limited time, get $1,000 off Vanta at vanta.com/codestory. That's VANTA.com/codestory. This episode is sponsored by Speakeasy. Whether you're growing the user adoption of your public API or streamlining internal development, SDKs can turn the chore of API integration into effortless implementation. Unburden your API users from guessing their way around your API while keeping your team focused on your product. Shorten the time to live integration and provide a delightful experience for your customers. With Speakeasy's platform, you can now automatically generate up-to-date, robust, idiomatic SDKs in 10 languages and Terraform providers in just a matter of minutes. SDKs are feature-rich with type safety, auto retries, and pagination. Everything you need to give your API the developer experience it deserves. Deliver a premium API experience without the premium price tag. Visit speakeasy.com/codestory to get started and generate your first SDK for free. This message is sponsored by SnapTrade. Link in user brokerage accounts and build world-class investing experiences with SnapTrade's unified brokerage API. With over $12 billion in connected assets and over 300,000 connected accounts, SnapTrade's API quality and developer experience are second to none. SnapTrade is SOC 2 certified and uses industry-leading security practices. Developers can use the company's official client SDKs to build investing experiences in minutes without the limitations of traditional aggregators. Get started for free today by visiting snaptrade.com/codestory.
I'm so pumped about my new offshore dev partner. I'm saving a ton, and they even signed an NDA. Wait, is that our financial statements on the internet?
My dev partner has great communication. They can acknowledge an issue or email message super fast after they run it through Google Translate, of course.
I have a call set up with my partner right now. Hey guys, are you there? Wait, did you just ghost me?
Ever been in these situations? Yeah, me too. That is, until I found Tekla. Tekla is world-class, nearshore talent for technology teams who demand the highest standards. The platform gives you access to over 50,000 vetted Latin America technology experts, including developers, designers, and IT professionals, all fluent in English and all in your time zone. In 7 days or less, you can have your tech expert hired through Tekla's fast, efficient hiring process, which helps you find and onboard top candidates. Get senior-level talent at competitive rates, often half the cost of hiring in the U.S., but aligned with U.S. work culture and time zones, making teamwork easy and productive. Hire the best tech experts today with Tekla. Learn more at tekla.io. That's TECLA.io. So then you've got your MVP, right? How did you progress the product from there? And I'm curious about, to wrap that box a little bit, I'm curious about roadmap. How did you build your roadmap? How did you go about deciding that, okay, this is the next most important thing to build or to address with Semaphore?
I would say that it was maybe 80% customer driven. We initially could address the needs of companies that were 10, 20, 30 people or so, that had a very concrete set requirements that they wanted to solve. As bigger teams just embrace the product and starting to use it, it showed a number of shortcomings. What we are building is essentially almost like a cloud platform, where number one attribute is reliability. So it has to operate very high level and stable, very high uptime. Because if you don't run those builds and if tests are not running, developers are not getting feedback, and then you're in a problem. That was one side of the story. The other side of the story was that a great problems to have in that scaling phase, but company starts using Semaphore, 20 people. Like a year later, they are 120 people. And they want to push a lot through Semaphore. So I would say probably after we launched for the first roughly 3 years, it was mainly scaling and just ticking the boxes for various small things that people want to have. I would say in terms of product, probably the main thing that we did is added those languages that I mentioned, plus that ability to define where they want to deploy your stuff. I would characterize, as I said, first 3 years of that pure, there is nothing to guess. There is nothing to guess. People are telling you, there is a large number of people that are telling you what you need, what they need, and you just need to deliver that. A phase later became a bit different.
I'm curious, with anything as successful and powerful as Semaphore, you have to have the right team, right? How did you go about building your team, and what did you look for in those people to indicate that they were the winning horses to join you?
When it comes to building the team, we had, I would say, 2 phases. At first, we were super, super picky. We literally wanted to have kind of the most engaged, the guy or girl that absolutely loved coding and the technology that we worked with. So our standards were super high. And it's great that it was like that, because without that, we would not succeed. And I would say after maybe that initial phase, we ended up making like a number of mistakes that we wanted to grow faster, grow our tech team faster, and to optimize for being able to have more people, because there are just so many issues in the backlog that would be great and features to be solved. We steered more in the direction of hiring more out-of-college students. And as the first-time founders and someone who never worked in a bigger team, bigger companies, we overwhelmed the team with too many juniorish people. And as you can imagine, it was pure, we could classify it, we could put the different labels on it. I would maybe even to some extent you could say, okay, we are going to hire 5 of these younger people instead of maybe 1 or 2 of these more senior people, because we thought that we are big enough and we can support those young people and we can just keep marching forward at a much higher velocity. It turned out that was not the case, and we had to make a major course correction there.
This message is sponsored by QA Wolf. If slow QA processes bottleneck your software engineering team and you're releasing slower because of it, you need a solution. You need QA Wolf. QA Wolf gets engineering teams to 80% automated end-to-end test coverage and helps them ship 5 times faster by reducing QA cycles from hours to minutes. With over 100 5-star reviews on G2 and customer testimonials from SalesLoft, Drata, AutoTrader, and many more, you're in good hands. Ready to ship faster with fewer bugs? Join the Wolfpack at QAWolf.com to see if they can help you squash the QA bottleneck. This message is sponsored by SnapTrade. Link in user brokerage accounts and build world-class investing experiences with SnapTrade's unified brokerage API. With over $12 billion in connected assets and over 300,000 connected accounts, SnapTrade's API quality and developer experience are second to none. SnapTrade is SOC 2 certified and uses industry-leading security practices. Developers can use the company's official client SDKs to build investing experiences in minutes without the limitations of traditional aggregators. Get started for free today by visiting snaptrade.com/codestory. I'm curious about scalability of the product, the company, really wherever you want to take it. There's technology, there's business scalability, whatever has the most interesting story to you. But I'm curious about how you approach scalability and if there was any sort of interesting areas where you had to fight it as you grew.
There were many. Don't know exactly how to explain it, but as you're maybe climbing a hill, or a mountain, you see that first peak which is in front of you. And once you cross that peak, Only then you can see that there is another big peak in front of you, but you also probably have to descend and climb again. And we had that opportunity or challenge couple of times. So you build a product, it satisfies certain needs, and it attracts a certain set of customers. As I already mentioned, those customers grow, and then they set in front of you another set of challenges that you have to solve. And then you solve that. Once you solve that, that attracts the next generation, next wave of customers that are different than the previous ones. They are bigger and they have their own set of challenges. That happened maybe around 2016 or so, where there were just people that outgrew us. Essentially, the product was no longer matching their expectations. They became maybe a 200-people company, and the process that they wanted to model, you couldn't do it with existing product. So we embarked onto something that is, I would say, anti-pattern for a reason in the tech world of almost like a complete product rewrite, where we reinvented Sanfor from scratch to eliminate all the limitations that were inherently in the design of the product that was designed at that point, maybe 5 years ago. And once we solved that, it was great. But it took maybe 2.5 years to really get that completely new version of the product into people's hands. And it did its job. It attracted a next generation of customers. So now, or at that point in time, there were no limitations. People could model all kinds of things. And then that inspired like a new wave of customers to start using Sanfor. And the next major challenge was, even though those even bigger companies have all those security, legal compliance, all those features and things that are not super cool to build and not very exciting, but essential for those bigger businesses. Yes, we tick that box, but then again, it's a period of like a year and a half to patch all of that. Then people came and say, hey, you have all these things and it's just amazing, but it all runs in the cloud. And our company really needs it to run in GovCloud or on-prem and so on. And then we need to package it up on, like to joke, on a CD that we can ship it to customers. Then it again takes a year or 18 months to get there. You probably very clearly see the pattern by now. You're growing up and life is throwing under your feet a new set of challenges that you have to cross.
As you step out on the balcony, you look across all that you've built thus far with Semaphore. What are you most proud of?
I'm most proud of the company as a whole and service that we are offering, and that all of that is running without drama. As a young entrepreneur, I clearly remember if you manage to build a team, departments, and processes, that company is running without major drama, that is great. It's going to pay off dividends along the road. And I have heard many horror stories from various people working in different companies. Well, who knows, maybe there are some people who had some drama stories in our company also, but to a large extent we are very supportive of each other. It's a relatively small team of 35 people. Processes are running smoothly. So I would say that's what I'm personally most proud of.
Darko, let's flip the script a little bit. Tell me about a mistake you made and how you and your team responded to it.
My favorite is the one that I said already, which is not balancing the amount of young people and people with experience. That keeps echoing in my head. We don't have any super bad stories to say about that phase. We missed some opportunities that were on the market in those early stages because we couldn't achieve the velocity that was needed, because as speed wins the market share. And we could have done more if we could have executed a higher pace. I don't know if we actually could, because we were in literally late 20s or early 30s phase with not much experience. But I would put that as number one. Number two is just figuring out the value of a written word and putting processes on paper. And not processes in some boring way, but just building a playbook. And whatever comes your way and is a new challenge, you give it a title. Okay, I faced this is what we did. If we face it again, let's do that. I would advise founders starting a company, literally day one, create a markdown file, create a Google document, create whatever, and say this is our playbook, split it across maybe those just two departments that you have. Maybe you have engineering and maybe someone in ops or marketing, and teach all the people to just write down things as it will become much more easier for everyone.
Let's move forward then. What does the future look like for Semaphore, the product, and for your team? I know there's been some recent changes around how you offer the product. I'd love to dive into that too.
I gave the background of growing up and being able to serve bigger companies. A thing that we did maybe a month and a half ago is that we also created an open source version of our product. It's called Community Edition. People can do a lot with it. And if they are like really big and need those security and compliance things, then they can reach for our Enterprise Edition. And there are like two components to this. The first one, we are working with the companies that are literally maybe 2 orders of magnitude bigger than us. And collaborating with such folks is great, but they're also quite demanding. And there are areas where they would want to just run with a certain part of the product, improve it at maybe higher velocity that we are able to do. It's also maybe not just about the size of our company. There are also many other, I would say, big companies that just don't want to invest in certain area of the product. And then that locks in the customer and they literally don't have freedom. Maybe it's just a single API endpoint and you might be using AWS and you might be waiting for that single API endpoint that you would love for literally years. All our customers being developers and engineers, we saw a great opportunity there to collaborate and work on another level and just connect with people on different ways. And there are many people that are saying, okay, open source is a business model or there is an open source business model and so on. We can potentially call it that way, but it's more about a collaboration model. So open source is a collaboration model where we can just come together and today very easily discuss certain part of the code, certain feature, or push each other and help us develop further in that area. That's the first component. And the second component is in the market today, more than ever, there is this consolidation of huge vendors and the public clouds are stronger and more powerful than ever. However, my personal view is that these smaller businesses, startups are in a weaker position than ever. And to some extent, the open source is an answer to that. Microsoft will never be open source and will never be open source company. I would say for the vast majority of our industry today, open source is one of the answers for competing with these couple of big public clouds and just tech companies that are many orders of magnitude bigger than the usual startups player, even if they're in a couple of hundred of people.
Let's switch to you, Darko. Who influences the way that you work? Name a person or many persons or something you look up to and why.
I would say the team influences me the most. As I was explaining those phases of how product work and what were the shortcomings, the same is true, I would say, for myself. The structure organization that we have built influences the way I work a lot. There has been a lot of 0 to 1 efforts within the company, as many people know. So I would say after engineering, the first team that we built, 0 to 1, was support. I would say after that marketing, then that cuts some things from your plate. It teaches you to delegate things. Over time, those teams mature. And maybe one of my shortcomings in that area that I sometimes fail to recognize how early actually can I delegate much more than I do. I try to guide people and stay in the loop and support them. And that's great for people. I think it's great for the spirit of the team and everything. But over time, in some cases, it ends up hurting me and others more than it should have. People are all the time, for instance, pushing me to delegate more aggressively. And I think that I'm becoming better at it than I used to be. But aggressive delegation and throwing people, as they say, also into fire. Okay, maybe you never dealt with this. We never did this together. We haven't won such a battle before. Go on your own. If things get hard, come back. We'll talk, and we are going to resolve that. I would put the team and all the great people in the team and the people that are leading the teams that we have in the company are probably the biggest influence. In terms of number 2, it's a people that I speak with that have company of either similar sizes or maybe who are on the next level. In my head, maybe after having a 30-40 people company, I would say the next level is probably like 100 plus, and how the teams are structured or organized. Those people, I would say, have the most productive influence on me, what I can hear from them, how things are organized and so on. And in realm of mistakes, I think it's a mistake to look up to people and companies that are order of magnitude or 2 orders of magnitude bigger than you. You can get inspired by certain things that, Steve Jobs historically would do or preach, or Elon Musk or whoever. But I think it's good for inspiration. It's good for some practical things, but in terms of really productive advice that you can put into motion tomorrow, it's more about these guys that are 5 or 10 years older than you.
Darko, last question. So you're getting on a plane and you're sitting next to a young entrepreneur who's built the next big thing. They're jazzed about it. They can't wait to show it off to the world and can't wait to show it off to you right there on the plane. What advice do you give that person, having gone down this road a bit?
I would say number one is that I would compare entrepreneurship to sports. So it's a team. You need to have great people on the team. If someone is not up to the game that you want to play, you have to explain to them, hey, there is this position in the team and maybe you need to find your place somewhere else because we want to play on another level and we just want to bring someone in because on another level. Number two, the basketball ball is going to jump only while you hit it. You have to relentlessly do that. So that's business. You have to hit the ball all the time and you have to relentlessly push that urgency and focus forward. There is no stopping. There is no hiring of people that are super talented and super motivating. And now at some point in time, you are going to have some relaxing months or years and people are going to drive the things forward. People are the key. There are many super capable people, but there needs to be that person that is going to pushing the boundaries and setting new expectations and driving that urgency. So yeah, if you get into business entrepreneurship and you want that kind of slow moving kind of life, you have to wait until you retire. And maybe the last thing again can be related to sport. You need to be very aggressive. That doesn't mean that you don't need to be a nice person and nice to everyone, but entrepreneurship requires the level of aggressiveness, or maybe there is a better word to describe that, but you need to set the boundaries very, very high and you need to do various hard things through that journey. And you always have to push harder and harder. With age, it becomes easier. You build that emotional resilience and how to execute things, how customers are going to react, how your team is going to react. But you always need to push a little bit harder than you thought.
That's fantastic advice. Well, Darko, thank you for being on the show today. Thank you for telling the creation story of Semaphore.
Thank you. It was great.
And this concludes another chapter of Code Story. Code Story is hosted and produced by Noah Labhart. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or the podcasting app of your choice. And when you get a chance, leave us a review. Both things help us out tremendously. And thanks again for listening.